Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Andreas Bhagwani. I am the CEO and now third largest shareholder of Nanologica, and I'm going to give you just a brief introduction to our company. We're starting with our vision, and this is really something that is important to both me and the company. Better and cheaper medicine through porous silica. We believe that there are two major trends in the whole life science spectrum that we all need to actually consider and be part of. One is that there are a lot of patients out there that they don't get a treatment because of cost or because of reach. There are treatments, but people don't get it for these two reasons. The other is that there are a lot of diseases and a lot of conditions that are not treated in a very good way. There are no good treatments. That's the other trend. And you can't be in the middle between. If you're in the middle between, you'll be eaten or you will be wiped out. And to just give one example, we work with the purification of insulin. We just heard Jonathan here talk about peptides. I think that's a very interesting field. Insulin needs to be cheaper, a lot cheaper, especially in Asia, where there are a lot of undertreated diabetic patients. On the other spectrum, we have people that don't get any good treatment, like IPF patients. Our partner, Vicore, they have a very interesting program against IPF, and one of their programs, like VP02, are based on our technology. So I'm going to take you through what we do and how we plan to be a part of these two trends. But starting with technology, what do we do? Well, if you look at our products, you can see that it's a white powder. If you feel it feels like sand, it actually is sand. But if you look under a microscope, you can see that these sand grains are actually discrete particles. We call them particles. And if you look in even a larger magnification, you can see that they are porous. They are not hollow, but it's like actually like a sponge. So when we're and the particles, they are micron size, and the pores are nano size. And the pores, that's actually where the magic happens. So and if you're good at that, we have two business areas in which we try to commercialize this and have to the benefit of patients. One is we reformulate drugs. So basically in these pores, we put the drugs inside the pores, and then you can improve the drug's properties. For example, you can prevent hydrolysis, breakdown of the drug product, or you can increase its solubility. Which is a major problem in the pharmaceutical industry. So by loading the drug or the drug product into our particles, you can increase, for example, its solubility. The other, and quite different actually, is chromatography that we just heard Jonathan talk about. This does not compete with what Bioworks does. It's a completely different. It's HPLC, high pressure liquid chromatography. So basically, it's in the industry of either purify drugs or analyze drug. And as Jonathan said, they purify drugs as well. And I'm going to take just a few moments to tell the difference. But the analytical part is something that is not very accurate if you are working with agros. At least that market is much smaller. So if you look at our company at a glance, you can see that we have many now quarters of growth. We've doubled our net sales from 18 to 19. We can see that this is continuing. We also believe that rolling 12 months is a very good way of measuring our progress. We have a very stable cash position. We did 2 rounds this spring, so about 100 million SEK was acquired. And now we have a steadily growing business, although we have had some issues with Corona, especially Q3. If you look at, this is the image that I try to have as often as I can. So this is a way of describing our business, which is actually quite different. In the lower part, you can see an amber arrow, which is analytical chromatography. That's where we've had very stable growth over time. And that is probably what's going to take us to a position where we start making money. and it's growing. But from a strategic perspective, that is perhaps not so interesting. If you look at the green arrow, that's preparatory chromatography, the purification of drugs, and that's an area where we believe that we can have substantial sales and ramp up in sales relatively fast. And last summer we made a major deal with a Chinese company, and they placed a large order, and they also made an upfront payment of $1 million US, so that we can start our large-scale manufacturing project, which is ongoing, and we're waiting for a product coming out. What probably is, from a strategic perspective, most interesting is where we reformulate drugs. That is, of course, now more of a project revenue business, although the interesting part comes after that once you formulate drugs. So these are three quite different parts of our business. Analytical chromatography in itself, it's a growing market all globally. Companies, if you'd ask one of our customers why they would buy our product, they'd probably say it's because it's high performance, but more importantly, that it lasts longer. Major sales in China, also in the US. We're adding more distributors, but this is the business that has been hit quite substantially in Q3 with COVID, both from that we are now we need to be out in labs, and labs all over the country, the globe, especially in the US, are closed. So we're difficult to get access. They can't test our products, so that has been hampering our sales. And also we had a bit of a supply problem in Q3, which took down our sales a bit. But we don't think that that's going to last more than Q3. It's more like a delay in sales than anything else. This is where it becomes really interesting. Preparatory chromatography in itself, we are working with peptides, but more, I would say that our main business is insulin purification. So we've tested, we have had many customers, multiple customers testing our product. They are now scaling up, and in the past, the problem for us has been that we haven't had the scale for the next couple of steps, and we've been forced to turn down deals because we don't have the scale. Now we're building that scale, and we're waiting for our first products to come out of the factory, which is in the UK. So that's our next step in this field. When we get out from this field, I think we will see some kind of catch effect customers, because then we have proven that we have large scale manufacturing, and that's really what a lot of people are waiting for. And the right hand image here is a good example of what it's like. It's a very, very harsh condition, a repeated cycle that has been done with us and two competitors. We're neck to neck with one of the market leader, whereas the product, which is actually much cheaper than ours and the other product, the gray line, it cannot take the test at all. It's too harsh. And that sort of reflects that even if someone has a much cheaper product than ours, in an insulin setting, it won't matter, because it can't stand the number of cycles as our product can. Sort of switching tracks from chromatography to drug development. So this is what it could look like. This red drug that you can see on the left, it's called clofazimine. It's used for the treatment of leprosy, but many people have tried to use it for TB, which is a disease that kills a lot of people globally every year. This is a drug that is extremely poorly soluble. It's very lipid. It does not dissolve in water, and you can see that in those two buckets that you see in the round image. You can see that this looks like a red gravel in the front bucket, whereas in the rear bucket you can see that it's completely solubilized, and that is what happens with the poorly soluble when it's formulated into our particles. Now, we've been working with all the big companies. We have a very nice wall with all the nice company names. They tested our product, but it isn't because before we start working with inhalation that we really see traction in this field. We're working with big pharma in this field. We have one public collaboration with Vicore. It's a very, very nice project. It's a very nice collaboration because it is moving fast to the clinic. And together with the Vicore, we're learning a lot from them. And it's also driving our own, I would say, both innovation and our willingness to work within this field. And it seems like it's early days, but it seems like we have something that is unique in the inhalation field, which is sort of needed because it hasn't been a lot of innovation in this field for a very long time. And there are a lot of diseases, a lot of patients out there, not only in asthma and COPD, but other diseases as well, like IPF and rare diseases, where the treatment is really, really bad. And as I started with our vision, we need to, sort of our raison d'etre is that we can work with diseases and with people, with patients that don't have a proper treatment today. And that is what is driving us. And we think that we can be we can make a difference, a real difference in the inhalation field. And we feel that that's very cool, and that's something that we're very committed to. So look at the company. So third largest shareholder, Thomas Eldred, a third of the company. He has been for us for a very long time. He's probably most known as the CEO and largest shareholder of Recipharm. We've got the Swedbank Medica is the second largest shareholder. They entered into the company through a directed share issue this spring, and then of course myself is the third largest shareholder. The share price has been between, I would say, 11 and 15 the past 1.5 years, pretty stable, and we're working now, of course, as best we can in the company to make it be worthy of a higher value. 22 employees, 9 PhDs and 8 nationals, so a truly international company. So ending with what kind of triggers we have, a lot of exciting things are happening the coming, I would say, months. We're waiting for our own tox results for NLab Spiro in Q2. That's going to be very exciting because it's sort of, if that is what we think it would be, it sort of opens up for short-term treatment with our particles, which is very, very interesting. VP02 is going to enter the clinic, and we have ongoing collaborations with AstraZeneca and a plant protection company, which are both of those are very exciting. Chromatography, we're waiting for our test batch that we manufactured in the UK, waiting for that in this year, because if we can demonstrate that it has the same quality as we do in Södertälje, then of course a lot of hurdles are the technical hurdles are gone from a sort of binary perspective, which is excellent. And then of course we're continuing with large scale production with output in 2021, and further contracts in prep is going to follow, because right as I said initially, we have been hampered by the fact that people know that we haven't had the scale to provide them with enough product. So to summarize, we're working with analytical chromatography. That has been our growth engine. That is now being complemented by a much larger growth engine, which is preparatory chromatography. We're going to see that in 2021. But of course, the real interesting stuff has to do with the drug development and when we can reformulate drugs, like, for example, our partner Vicore does with VP02. That's a very exciting development, because it's not only helping patients, of course, that's also going to be rewarding for anyone owning such a technology. So that I would summarize with that, and thank you very much for my time.
Thank you, Andreas. Always nice to have you with us. I have some questions, of course. You have been pretty heavily hit by the corona pandemic, especially when you're in chromatography. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you've been doing to sort of alleviate those challenges in the short term?
Yeah, so I think that what happened in Q3 especially was that we've had on the supply side, it was in this case it was actually so. My idea of 2020 was that this is going to be our, this is when it happens. And we had phenomenally bad timing, because we started to grow very well in China, and then all China was wiped out throughout the year. We signed a contract with a very good US distributor on March 5th, and I couldn't think of a better of a worse timing. And then they closed down all the U.S. labs as well. But what happened now was that we have one of our suppliers that actually got a problem because they had too much to deliver, and they couldn't expand anymore as they usually do because of COVID. So what happened was that it's actually delay in sales rather than it's a decline in sales. So that's gonna what we thought was going to happen in Q3 is pushed to Q4, and Q4 probably is going to be pushed a bit into Q1. So it's more of a delay in sales than anything else. But it's I don't think it's going to be last for a very long time. And of course, we've been talking to this supplier about how to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future.
Okay. I think, looking at this as probably like a one-off thing, but how do you see the underlying demand going into 2021? I mean, you don't seem to see there's any big difference in the underlying demand for these products from your side.
I think that we would grow a lot faster in the analytical field if it wouldn't have been for COVID. We're coming from low levels, so it doesn't really tell. But I think that we are really hampered. But given the history, you can't tell. Mm-hmm. What we see, although, in the preparative chromatography field, we don't see a lot of decline because we can see some delays in some projects. But the companies that we've been working for a very long time, although they're hit by COVID, the underlying, for example, if we talk about diabetes and insulin, that's a very, very stable. Unfortunately, it's a stable and growing business. There are far too many new diabetics every year, and it's not only the US. It has been the driver, but now we see the huge surge in those numbers in India as well as in China. So the underlying need, where we think the big bucks is going to come from, in our case, which is preparative chromatography, unfortunately we don't see any decline, and we think that it's going to last at least as long as we can see. This is the need for insulin products, both advanced and basic ones like insulin to GLPs and so on. That's going to increase steadily by 5 to 10% per year globally for another 5 to probably 10, maybe 15 years.
Okay. Just two small questions to wrap up. You have a lot of interest in your inhalation platform, and I think you have a study going on for toxicity. How is that progressing? Is it looking what you're expecting as it expects, or how's it going?
Yeah, at this point in time, we don't see any adverse effects. But again, to be waiting for the study results, of course. But this is in line with what we've seen before in other studies done by partners. We don't see any adverse effects, but yet to be confirmed, of course.
Okay. And also you have a candidate for the NIC. How is that going? How's it progressing?
It's a very good question. I wish I could tell you because now it seems like it's going to be, or my guess would be, I don't know. Because we don't know when we have access to the clinic. But my guess is that, as good as anyone, is that if the promising vaccines will come out, the risk groups will be vaccinated throughout Q1, maybe half of Q2, and then it's going to normalize somewhere in Q3, Q4. So that's is probably a good guess that in sometime in Q3, Q4, it should be, if not, we will find a new normal, which would probably take some pressure off the healthcare sector, which probably will open up for these kinds of studies.
Okay. One final but short answer on this question. You have the sort of same technology platform as you had before, but you also have been scaling it out and concentrating on these platforms. How do you see yourself in 3 years, or the company in 3 years? Have you grown how's it looking?
Well, I think it's looking very, very promising. I think that we're a company that makes a lot of money. I think we've acquired a technology or two, possibly at least in the chromatography field, maybe also in the inhalation field, In 3 years' time, I think we're in the clinic with our own product also when it comes to inhalation. So I see a very, very bright future for the company. We've been working for a very long time, and if we sort of extrapolate where we come from summer of 2018 with sales and progress, and then if we sort of at some point in time we will see a sales catapult from PrEP chromatography. So I think it's looking very, very good for us.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. Thank you for a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.